Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Friday, March 26, 2021. Deutsche Welle report. Government report says France was blind to Rwanda genocide. A French government inquiry that spent nearly 2 years uncovering France's role in 1994's Rwandan genocide, on Friday cleared the country of being complicit in the slaughter of the more than 800,000 people. The report did rule that France bears heavy and overwhelming responsibilities for being blind the events that led up to the killings, which principally claimed victims from Rwanda Tutsi ethnic minority. A Hutu elite ruled Rwanda when the genocide took place in the months of April to June 1994. But the Tutsi-led Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF, under Paul Kagame, who is now president, ousted them from power. Kagame has led Rwanda since 2000.
Fox report. Harvard punishes math professor who had ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Cambridge, Mass. A Harvard University professor who had close ties with Jeffrey Epstein and is accused of giving the disgraced financier an office on campus will be barred from starting new research or advising students for at least 2 years, the school announced Thursday. Martin Novak will be allowed to continue teaching during that period, but other contact with students will be limited and his research center is being shut down, according to a memo from Claudine Gay, Dean of Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences.
Fox report. Navy sending team to Suez Canal to help dig out massive ship blocking passage. Sources. The U.S. Navy will assist the Egyptian government in the operation to dig out a giant container ship currently stuck sideways in the Suez Canal. The MV Ever Given, owned by the Japanese firm Shoei Kisen KK, hit the bottom of the canal Tuesday. Since then, the blockage has heavily disrupted traffic down the canal. The ship reportedly started moving Wednesday, but it remains grounded as of Friday.
Fox report. Tennessee women attacked, robbed 14-year-old trampoline park employee. Tennessee police say 5 women assaulted a 14-year-old worker and stole her cell phone and headphone Sunday. The victim, an employee at the Urban Air Trampoline and Adventure Park in Memphis, had asked the group to leave, according to local media. Urban Air is a national chain where children can play on trampolines, rock walls and gymnastics equipment, among other items. It also hosts birthday parties.
Al Jazeera report. WHO seeks 10 million COVID jabs for poorer countries. The World Health Organization, WHO, has called for countries and companies worldwide to immediately share 10 million doses of coronavirus vaccines with the United Nations-backed COVAX scheme to deliver jabs to poorer nations. At the beginning of the year, I issued a call for countries to work together to ensure that all countries started vaccinations within the first 100 days of the year, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told reporters on Friday.
CNN report. Scientists probe whether West Africa's recent Ebola outbreak was from man who survived epidemic 5 years ago. Scientists and global health officials are investigating whether the current Ebola outbreak in Guinea may have been triggered by a person who was first infected with the virus during the Ebola epidemic in the region 5 years ago. The World Health Organization, WHO, is carrying out further investigations into the individual who appears to have had the virus lay dormant in their body. This would suggest infections may persist once people recover and have the potential to start a future outbreak.
CNN report. Why Janet Yellen is wrong on corporate tax rates. Daniel Bunn is vice president of global project of the Tax Foundation. Scott A. Hodge is president of the Tax Foundation. The opinions expressed in this commentary are their own. Some economists argue that a tax hike on multinational corporations could be just the cure. Joseph Stiglitz of Columbia University and other economists recently penned an open letter to President Biden saying the United States must support a global minimum tax and multinationals, which would establish a floor for how low countries could set their corporate income tax rates.
Deutsche Welle report. Coronavirus Digest. Nairobi goes into partial lockdown. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta announced on Friday tightening restrictions in the capital Nairobi and 4 surrounding hard-hit counties. The death rate is devastating by all measures, and the stress the pandemic is placing on our health system is unparalleled, Kenyatta said in a televised address as the East African country stands on the brink of a third wave. Between January and February, 3 people died every day from COVID. In March 2021, the number has gone up to 7 every day, the highest since this pandemic hit us, he said. The restrictions include a pause on all movement into or from Nairobi, Kajiado, Machakos, Nakuru and Kiambu. Public gatherings are banned. And an evening curfew will be imposed to last from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. in the affected counties. Kenyatta also called on those eligible for the first round of vaccination to get the jab. He and his wife received the AstraZeneca vaccine. Pfizer has begun clinical trials for its COVID vaccine in children under the age of 11. The company said Thursday. Quote.
Al Jazeera report. Rerouting. Suez Canal jam sends ripple through global trade. An abrupt starboard turn in the Atlantic Ocean is the perfect illustration of the trade disruption caused by the blockage of one of the world's most important waterways. The Marlin Santorini, a tanker capable of carrying 1 million barrels of oil, switched destinations away from the Suez Canal, turned south and appears to be heading around Africa. The diversion could add about 6,000 miles to the ship's journey and something like $300,000 in fuel costs. But it's just one of hundreds of individual setbacks suffered this week by vessels that carry everything from raw materials to finished goods around the world.
Deutsche Welle report. Bangladesh. 4 die in protests against India's Narendra Modi. 4 people were killed and dozens injured on Friday as demonstrators clashed with police in the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka and the port city of Chittagong. Protests erupted against a visit to the country by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Demonstrators accused the right-wing leader of inciting anti-Muslim violence in India. A police officer told Reuters news agency that 8 people were hospitalized with gunshot wounds.
BBC report. France seeks UNESCO heritage status for the baguette. You probably wouldn't think of a baguette separate from the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. The status aims to protect traditions, knowledge and skills, so they are not lost over time. Some 10 billion baguettes are consumed in France each year, according to data site Planetoscope, but about 20,000 bakeries have closed since 1970, as shoppers go to bigger supermarkets instead, where the baguettes are typically not made using traditional methods.
BBC report. At least 32 killed in Egypt train crash. 2 carriages derailed and overturned when 2 passenger trains collided near the city of Tata, Sohag province. Emergency brakes were activated on the train in front by unknown individuals, causing the train behind to crash into it, the country's railway authority said. President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi pledged tough punishment for those responsible. Anyone who caused this painful accident through negligence or corruption, or anything similar, must receive a deterrent punishment without exception or delay, he tweeted.
BBC report. Georgia lawmaker arrested as governor signs new election law. Democrat Park Cannon was handcuffed and removed from the state capitol for banging on Governor Brian Kemp's office door as he signed the bill. Republicans say the new voting laws are common sense, but Democrats slammed the measures as sick and say they will suppress the vote. Georgia was at the heart of false voter fraud claims during the 2020 election. Former President Donald Trump, who was the first Republican to lose the state in a presidential election since 1992, repeatedly pressured elected officials in the state to investigate his unsubstantiated claims that the election had been stolen from him.
Fox report. North Korean missiles getting more agile, evasive. Experts. In resuming its ballistic testing activity after a year-long pause, North Korea has demonstrated a potentially nuclear-capable weapon that shows how it continues to expand its military capabilities amid a stalemate in diplomacy with the United States. The 2 short-range missiles the North fired into the sea this week were its first meaningful provocation since the inauguration of President Joe Biden, who on Thursday delivered a restrained response to the launches, saying, "There will be responses if they choose to escalate."
Al Jazeera report. Yemen relief groups concerned UN experts report may hurt aid work. Local grassroots charities in Yemen are disconcerted by revelations in the 2021 United Nations Security Council panel of experts report that threaten humanitarian workflow in the war-ravaged nation. The Trump administration's decision a month before the report was released to impose the foreign terrorist organization, FTO, designation on the Iran-aligned Houthis did not help either. But this was swiftly reversed when U.S. President Joe Biden assumed power.
CNN report. Here comes $3 gas, just as Americans start traveling again. Travel-starved Americans emerging from lockdown may need to budget for $3 a gallon gasoline on their next road trip. Prices at the pump are on the rise, driven higher by oil prices hitting $60 per barrel. A surge of economic optimism, restraint from U.S. frackers and unprecedented production cuts by OPEC and Russia. The energy rally has been further boosted by predictions on Wall Street of a new oil supercycle.
CNN report. Ethiopian Prime Minister says Eritrea will withdraw troops from Tigray. Eritrea will withdraw its troops from Ethiopia. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said on Friday, days after acknowledging for the first time that Eritrean forces had entered Ethiopia's northern Tigray region during the country's 5-month-old conflict. The government of Eritrea has agreed to withdraw its forces out of the Ethiopian border. The Ethiopian National Defense Force will take over guarding the border areas effective immediately, Abiy said in a statement on Twitter after meeting with Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki in the Eritrean capital of Asmara.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.